basically there is no difference in terms of human feelings and human aspirations. There's no difference. It's only when it comes down to how it's going to affect you on a personal basis or how it's going to affect your country that you begin to see some form of differences coming through. You had 5 different regions: Africa, Asia, Western European, Latin America, and then the Soviet Union, which was which is now Russia. So we had all of these groups to deal with. So we had to work together and come up with what would be better for our region, what would be best for us to do in terms of how we dealt with issues that came up. And it was a great change in my understanding different cultures, different peoples, understanding why the people in Mexico had a different point of view from the people in Argentina, why the people in Barbados felt differently from the people in Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. Even though we all came from Commonwealth countries, we had different views, different ideas, and we felt that we had to support our government's point of view from a political point of view as well as a regional point of view. So it was a kind of conflict at times, but we learned to work them out. And I enjoyed the idea of having to be a mediator, to work on these various committees, to be able to bring our countries closer together, because many times there were great differences, and sometimes country X was not willing to go along with country Y. And we had to try to show that what we're trying to do is in the best interest of each individual country, to preserve your own territorial integrity, but at the same time to preserve the integrity of the region. And I was able to get a better understanding of the differences. And my attitude is that differences are good. You make them work for you. You don't use them to work against you. You have a different point of view from mine, and I'd let you see what I have in mind, and we try to work together. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not, but that's what it was all about. And also traveling to the various different countries in the world, to conferences and seminars, you also got a view of not only how the people at the United Nations thought, but the people in the country. You get to meet some of the, I call local people, and you had a chance to talk to them and find out their views about how they felt about their country being a part of the United Nations and what benefits they thought they were getting. And we have a number of specialized agencies like UNDP, UNICEF, WHO, and all of the other specialized agencies that tend to work toward helping to make situations better for individuals in the country. And I'm running over this because it is much more involved than I'm even trying to begin to tell you. But it's a wonderful experience that I had, and I was able to come back home and to share it with organizations, schools, churches, etc., just to give them an idea of some of the experiences that I've had. Some people were very much interested, others felt, well, it's another day in your life. Well, I think what you have to understand when you talk about treaties and agreements and all of these things, you're talking about individual countries. Sometimes people sign agreements just for their own security from a different point of view. But when it comes right down to the actual national enforcement, sometimes it doesn't work. And I think in our country, we have not signed, we have not become members of a number of treaties and arrangements because we felt they were not in our best interest at that particular time. But now we're looking at a number of them, like the question of underwater marine resources, talking about nuclear weapons, and I understand that that's on the board and will be signed or has been signed, that the Bahamas government is in agreement with dealing with the protocols for that. And we also have the question of discrimination against education, racial discrimination in education, and a number of other areas. We are dealing also with the Heritage Treaty, which deals with learning more about who we are, where we came from, culture. There are so many. I don't think that we're going to get any total agreement from all of the countries in the world that agree that these are very good things, and many of them have to be ratified. They need a certain number before they can go into effect. And when they go into effect, we need to have laws that can enforce them. And many times those laws are not there. So it's a wonderful thing, I think, to keep us in tune with what's going on. But I don't think that anything is 100% where everybody goes along. Everybody says, yes, of course, education is important, and we need to do everything we can about education. And yet we haven't seen any total acceptance of the fact that this whole concept of education for all, by the end of 2015, all persons must be able to read and write. It's a monumental task, but we can't stop. We have to continue to go on and try to see how far we can get. Well, I have had this thing about globalization, and I wasn't too sure that globalization was in the best interest of everybody, because if I'm not strong enough to deal with what you are bringing to me from your country, then you can swallow me up and I would have no place to go. But if globalization is presented on the lines that I am going to do everything in my power to have you keep what belongs to you, but recognize the fact that you cannot operate in a vacuum. What happens in Germany will affect us in the Bahamas, so we have to be aware of that. But it just doesn't mean that you have to go and take in all of what Germany has to offer at the risk of losing what you have. So you have to again go back to what I was talking about, working together to be able to see how we can share the experiences that we've gained from being a Bahamian as well as being a German citizen or British, whatever the situation is. And until we can do that, globalization is a word. And what I think we have to recognize is that it's going to go on whether we were a part of it or not. That's why we have to try to be as knowledgeable about it as we can, to preserve what we have, but yet not to deny other people from having what they have, and see how we can put those two things together. It's not an easy task. Globalization is, in my estimation, a buzzword. We have lots of those buzzwords, you jump on a bandwagon. Once ago it was political will. If you had the political will, you could do whatever you wanted to. Globalization is going to do this, it's going to do that. Yes, of course, it's wonderful to think of bringing all nations together, but I don't know if that is going to be a realistic goal, that will get all nations to agree to a certain point of view, even though they may feel it's for the best of everybody, because you have your own individual territorial integrity, your own view of what you feel you want your country to become. Now I'm talking about leaders. We at the bottom of the totem pole, we can have all kinds of ideas about what can happen and how they can happen. But governments have to be very careful about how they structure their plans for the growth and development of their country, and use the best method they have in order to keep the country intact, but yet be in tune with what's happening in other countries. I know this sounds confusing, and it is very confusing, but I don't think there is any hard and fast rule for a total answer to any of these questions.